In this video, we will learn about default way of data binding in ASP.NET Core web application. In our previous video, we send the data in the URL and the body of HTTP request. If you are sending the data with URL, it will get bind with all the simple data types like integer, float, string, double, etc. In this scenario, data binding will work with URL data. If you are passing a complex type parameters in the action method, then it will look for body of request. If it matches, then it will bind the data. Let's see how it works. We are using the same application that we have created in ASP.NET Core video series. Now comment this line. We used this in our previous video. Now in this method, instead of this country model, let's add a new parameter string name. Then change the code here. Remember, we can send the data with URL in two ways. In first way, we can send the data in the route URL. In the second way, we can pass the data in the query string. So we will understand both the methods. Save and run this application. Copy the URL. Go to Visual Studio. See the base route here. First we have to append API and then controller name. In this application now we are using countries controller. So open a Postman. Here paste the URL and append API then countries. First we will use query string method. In our previous videos we have discussed how to use query string in ASP.NET Core web application. If you want to learn, you can watch that video. Now update the URL. As first we are using query string. We can pass name here. Then click the send button. Here we got the name. Go to Visual Studio, stop the execution. Let's add one more parameter here, integer, population. Then update the code here, population equal parameter population. Save and run this application. Here we need to pass one more parameter, use and symbol, and then population. Let's say enter some number. Then click the send button here. Here we got the data. The model binder will look for the exact name in the query string. If it finds the exact parameter here, then it will map the data. Let's change the order of the query string here. First we will pass population, then name. Use and symbol. Click the send button. Here we got the data. There is no impact in the output. As we discussed in the query string video, there is no need to send the parameter in order. The model binder will look for the exact match. If there is an exact match, binding will work, else it will not work. Now let's see the second method. The second method is we can pass the data in the URL without using this query string. Let's see how we can do that. Go to Visual Studio, stop the execution. Here we can do like this, name and then population parameter. The data coming in the URL will map to these parameters automatically. Now save and run this application. In Postman, change the URL instead of this query string. Now we can pass directly, we can pass the data. India, let's say 5,60,000. The application is running. Okay, now click the send button here. Here we have the name of the country and population data. This is how binding will work if we are not using any attribute in this action method. Let's see what will happen if I change the order of the parameter. Now stop the execution. Change the route URL here. First we will pass population and then name like this. In this URL, population is the first parameter, but in this action method, population is the second parameter. Let's see how it works. Save and run this application. Go to Postman. In this URL, first parameter is the string and the second parameter is the integer data. Let's see how binding will work with wrong data. Now click the send button here. You can see here we got status 400. The value India is not valid. Okay, see here the status code 400 bad request. We have sent wrong data. Because of the problem in the client data, we got 400 status code. Now send the correct data. First we have to pass integer value, then string. Click the send button here. Now we got the exact output. If you are passing the data in the URL, either in the query string or directly in the route, the order of the parameter does not matter. You can pass it in any order. Now, let's learn how can we work with complex data in ASP.NET Core. Go to Visual Studio, stop the execution. Now, instead of this parameter, let's use country model. See here in this country model total we have 3 properties. Now update the code here. Country.name. Then we have to add capital here. Country.capital. Then population. Country.population. Now change this HTTP verb as HTTP post. Now remove these parameters from this route. That's it. Run this application. In Postman, change this method to post. Now go to body, choose raw and then select JSON type here. Here we can pass the data. First name, let's say India, then comma, then capital Delhi, comma, then third parameter population, let's say 6 lakhs something, okay, 60 lakhs. Okay, remove parameters from this URL. Now click send button. We are having all the data here. By default, if you are working with complex data, then binding will work with the body. If you are passing the data in the URL, then binding will work with primitive data types. Now, let's pass some data in the URL using query string, name China and population 68,000. Then click the send button here. Here we have passed only two values. You can see here we got the data from this body, not from the URL. If you want to implement some logic like if you want to read complex data only from the URL, not from the body, for some parameter you want to get data only from query string, not from the route, etc. To handle these scenarios, we can use some attribute. In our upcoming videos, we will learn all these attributes one by one. Thanks for watching this video.